start with the question that's never left my mind. What would you do if in the middle of the desert, the voice calling your name wasn't human, and you had it all recorded on video? In 2005, I traveled alone to northeastern Arizona. Just me, my camera, and that old habit of photographing places that feel like they carry stories even before anyone tells them. It was late afternoon, the sun almost touching the red rocks, and I was there, adjusting the tripod, when I heard someone call my name. They didn't shout, they didn't whisper. They spoke like someone who had known me since childhood, except there was no one there. I know because I looked around 3 times. Empty ground, no cars nearby, not even enough wind to carry sound. But then the voice came again, closer this time, like it was right behind the camera. I did the only thing that seemed logical in that moment. I pressed the record button, and that's when I realized the mistake. The camera shook in my hand when the voice came back. But this time, it didn't say my name. It said something that wasn't English, wasn't pure Navajo, wasn't anything I'd ever heard coming from a human mouth. It was something else, and that something was talking to me. Back in 2005, I was nothing more than an amateur photographer trying to find herself again after a rough divorce. I spent months saving up for that trip. The idea was simple: drive alone, sleep in cheap motels, capture landscapes I had always dreamed of seeing, those rock formations that change color as the sun goes down, old trails, long silences that make you breathe differently. I arrived in the region at the beginning of September. The weather was still warm, but the nights brought a dry cold that burned the skin. The inn where I stayed was modest but cozy. The woman who checked me in gently warned me not to walk alone after sunset. She didn't explain why. She didn't need to. The locals carried the kind of silence that says more than words. My plan for that day was simple: walk up to a nearby plateau, photograph the horizon, and come back before the light vanished. The trail was short but isolated, a mix of sand and rock with a few narrower stretches, nothing I couldn't handle. On the way up, I was talking to myself, a habit I'd picked up when traveling alone. I commented on the light, on the sun's position, on the heat that insisted on hanging in the air. The camera weighed a bit on my shoulder, but back then it felt like part of my body. And I felt good. I felt in control of my space, my life, my silence. When I got to the spot where I wanted to set up the tripod, the light was perfect. You know that moment when the sky is still blue, but the world is already turning gold? That was it. I started framing the shot, adjusted focus, metered the light, everything just like any other day. And that's exactly why the first call caught me off guard. Because there, in such a simple, ordinary moment, it made no sense at all that I'd hear my name come from behind me clearly, like someone had been standing there, just waiting for my attention. I took a deep breath, trying not to look scared, and turned, slowly. There was no one, just the desert breathing slowly with me. But that single second of silence, between hearing the voice and turning around, changed everything about the rest of the trip, because that was when the feeling began that would follow me for days, the feeling that I was not alone. The second time I heard my name, it wasn't subtle anymore. I was putting the camera back in my backpack when the voice came, clear, firm, almost annoyed, like it was calling someone who was distracted. The pronunciation was perfect, the tone too, but something was out of place, like the voice had been built piece by piece without fully understanding what gives life to a human sentence. I looked around again. Nothing. No footsteps, no shadows, not even that heavy silence that usually comes before a scare. It was like the air around me was too still, too trapped. It was pure instinct when I grabbed the camera again. I didn't think about defending myself. I didn't think about running. I thought about recording. Maybe out of stubbornness, maybe because part of me believed that if I had some kind of proof, it would just turn into a strange travel story. I hit record and left the camera on, pointed at nothing. I walked slowly around the edge of the plateau, as if I were looking for someone playing a prank. The ground was firm, with no tracks, no fresh footprints, no sign that any human, had passed through there in the last few days. And then came the sound that really knocked the air out of me. It was an attempt at a laugh, but it wasn't human. It had no rhythm, no warmth. It was like someone was trying to imitate the music of laughter without understanding what it means. An irregular sound, almost mechanical, like the throat hurt, trying to get it right. After the laugh, something worse. The voice repeated my name, but this time wrong, dragging one syllable out too long, flipping another, like it was taking my identity apart and putting it back together just to test. I took 2 steps back, but kept the camera steady. The wind brushed lightly against my face, but the sound that came next didn't move with the wind. It came straight from the mouth of the trail, as if someone was standing there. "You see me?" That's what I heard. 3 crooked words, all mixed up, weighted with a kind of pause no human puts in such a simple sentence. And in that instant, I knew it wasn't just repeating, it was trying to talk. After that sentence, that broken "you see me," something in the environment shifted. It wasn't the wind or the light or the distant sounds. It was like the entire desert became attentive, like every rock, every shadow was waiting for my next move. At some point, I felt like I wasn't the one observing the landscape anymore. The landscape was watching me back. I started filming in a circle, turning the camera slowly, my breathing short and my heart banging against my ribs. In the viewfinder, nothing but rock, dust, and that horizon that never seems to get closer. But the feeling of closeness grew, like something was approaching without making a sound, like it slid over the terrain without touching the ground. Then came the first physical sign. A small rock rolled by itself a few meters away from me. The trail was completely still, without enough wind to move dust, let alone a rock that size. And the sound it made hitting other rocks echoed strangely, like the trail was a narrow corridor instead of an open valley. I lifted the camera, pointed it to where the rock had fallen, zoomed in. Nothing. But far off, framed between 2 rocks, something moved. At first I thought it was a coyote, a deer, some curious animal. But the height was wrong. The shape was wrong. It looked too human, just too thin, too long, bent wrong in the wrong places. The creature moved sideways, fast, but not animal fast, fast like something that had learned to move by imitating humans without understanding the weight of its own body, almost like a broken, stiff jump. And then, for the first time, I heard its voice close, very close, right behind me, a few steps away. "Look!" The word cracked in the middle. Then it repeated, cleaner, firmer. "Look, here." I turned slowly, with the camera trembling in my hand. The sound was coming from behind a larger rock, like the creature was hiding, showing only part of its face. I didn't see the whole body, thank God, but I saw enough. An eye, just one, still, locked on me with an intention that wasn't curiosity. It was study. And before I could run, the creature responded to my own breathing. It copied it. The same rhythm, the same little hitch on the exhale. It wasn't coincidence. It was proximity. And it was a warning. I don't remember thinking clearly in the next few minutes. I just remember trying to force that moment into some kind of logic that wouldn't break my sanity right there. I told myself it could be an echo, that it could be some local kid playing a trick, that maybe I was tired, hot, dehydrated, but none of those explanations held up. The voice wasn't coming from the right place, and it didn't have the weight a human throat gives to sound. It was like it was being constructed, not spoken. Even so, I tried to rationalize it, like stubborn people do when they're too scared. I held the camera against my chest, took a few steps back, and spoke out loud, half to myself, half to whatever was listening. "Who's there?" The silence that followed hurt. It was so complete, it felt wrong. It wasn't the silence of the desert. It was the silence of something waiting for my reaction, like my words were part of a conversation only it knew how to control. And then the voice answered, not repeating, answering. "You call me." The sound was deeper than before, stronger, like it had found a better structure for the tongue. My legs went weak, and the worst part is that for a second I almost answered back again, not out of courage but instinct, like that creature was using my fear to shape its next step. I took a deep breath, trying to hold myself together, and took 3 quick steps back. I knew I had to get out of there. The light was already fading, the shadows were getting too long, and no one in that region recommended being alone off the trail after sunset. Now, I understood why. The moment I turned to leave, the creature spoke again, now using my own voice. Not perfect, but close enough. "Don't go!" My heart exploded in a way I'd never felt before, because hearing your own voice coming from a place that isn't your body makes something in your mind crack. I ran without thinking, holding the camera like it was some kind of protection. The desert seemed to narrow around me, as if every step echoed louder than it should. And look, if you've stayed with me up to this point, hit that like button. Because from here on, there's no more doubt, no more maybe, only the encounter and what I accidentally recorded that night. I ran down the trail, tripping over rocks, feeling the dry air scratch my throat. The sun had already dropped behind the rock formations, leaving only that deep blue that announces night. I just wanted to reach the car, lock the doors, start the engine, leave that place and never come back. But as I ran, I realized the sound behind me wasn't from normal footsteps. It was multiple, like something with wrong joints trying to match my pace, adjusting its own weight second by second. The camera bounced against my chest. The internal recorder was still running. And then, in the middle of my desperate run to it spoke again, not from far away, not from behind a rock, from my left side, keeping pace like a living shadow. "Stop! Run! Look!" The words came out broken, but now there was a clear, almost aggressive intent behind them, like the creature was losing patience with my escape. I sped up, already at my limit, when I heard a sound I'll never forget. A long, dry crack, followed by a heavy drag, like something huge had landed using both hands and both feet at the same time. I didn't want to look, but I did. And that's when I saw its silhouette. Not fully, just enough to haunt the rest of my life. A tall shape, too thin to be human, with a neck stretched at an impossible angle, like it was trying to copy human posture and didn't understand the limits of bones. The right arm moved in a strange arc, like it had more joints than it should. And the face wasn't a face, it was an attempt, as if the muscles were adjusting in real time, searching for the right shape and failing. It stepped forward, then another step, and then it spoke again, faster now, like it was testing human speed. "Look at me! Look at me! Look!" The voice broke mid-sentence, like an old tape, and then turned into something that wasn't human at all. A low, deep sound full of clicks, like it was flipping through different languages and none of them were working right. That's when I understood. It wasn't calling me. It was imitating me to distract me. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement above me. The creature was climbing the rocks too fast, like it weighed nothing. It wanted to cut me off. It wanted to block my way back to the car. I ran with everything I had left, knowing that if it reached the narrow part of the trail before me, I wasn't getting out of there alive. I hit the narrow stretch at the same time the creature came down over the rocks. It didn't jump, didn't slide. It came down like its hands had their own grip, like gravity was just a suggestion. Its form bent at impossible angles, and every movement looked like a mistake corrected too fast. I heard the camera slam against my chest, but didn't feel the weight. My entire body was in flight mode. When I reached the firmer sand, I managed to speed up. There were only about 30 meters left to the car when I heard the sound that chilled me the most that night. It imitated my crying perfectly, exactly. the same sob that had escaped me minutes earlier. But it wasn't imitating to deceive, it was imitating to provoke. "Stop, please, stop." The voice was almost human, almost familiar, and that was what snapped my mind for a second. Because if I hadn't seen that body moving like a mistake of anatomy, that voice would have made me think someone needed help. But it wasn't someone, it was that thing. I ran to the car, unlocked the door with shaking hands and practically fell inside, slammed the door, turned the key, and at that exact moment I heard its body hit the side of the vehicle. It wasn't a hard blow, more like a touch, like it was testing the metal, feeling the vibration of my breathing inside the car. The headlights lit up the dirt road, but they lit it up too. Standing a few meters away, body arched, head tilted like a curious animal trying to understand why I was hiding inside something it couldn't imitate. It took a step, and the voice came again, but this time it wasn't mine. It was deeper, lower, vibrating too much, like it was trying to use vocal cords that didn't match the body it was using. "Don't leave." I hit the gas so hard the car almost slid. The creature lunged, too fast, and for a second it felt like it was going to reach me. But the tires caught traction. The car shot forward, and I left that trail, that voice, and that presence behind. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I didn't want to know if it was running after me or just watching me go, like something that still had more to learn. I reached the main road, shaking, my shirt stuck to my skin, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to escape through my throat. I drove back to the inn, without thinking, without really breathing, too scared to turn off the headlights when I parked. I spent the night locked, in my room, sitting on the floor, with the camera in my lap, like a shield. I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. I just waited for the sun to rise, so I could tell myself it hadn't been a dream. It took me 2 weeks to gather the courage to watch the recordings. And when I finally hit play, I felt my whole body go cold, because what was there wasn't echo, wasn't an animal, wasn't human. The sound captured was wrong. The voice said my name like it was trying to understand its meaning. Then it mixed human. Syllables with clicks, pops, guttural noises that didn't sound like they came from any earthly throat. The video doesn't show its face, doesn't show its body, but it captures the sound. And sometimes sound is worse than any image. It's been almost 20 years. I still have the recording. I still can't bring myself to delete it. And every time I listen, I feel the same certainty I had that night. That thing knew who I was, and it wanted me to know that it wasn't human. If this story stayed with you until now, hit the like button. If you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you don't miss the next videos, turn on the notification bell.